This video is really seeking to give you some help in starting off in exercising with McArdle's. And to do that, I'm going to go back to my exercise prescription from Dr. Slonim. I was lucky enough to be on a business trip to New York back in 2005, shortly after diagnosis, and managed to visit him. He did a series of tests and got me on the treadmill, and we talked about McArdle's. And at the end of a 2-day, I think it was, session, he gave me a detailed prescription. And that prescription was really twofold. The first was all about exercise and making sure that I exercised on a daily basis. He wanted me to do 45 minutes. I've since adjusted that to 50 minutes. So now I have a standard session on the treadmill. It lasts 50 minutes. You can see here that when I first started, it was very slow. I was doing just 1 mile an hour, and that was for 10 minutes. It increased gradually. And Dr. Slonim also wanted the last piece to have an incline. Now, I've dispensed with that in my regime, and obviously now, 15 years later, I start at a much greater pace than this prescription, and that's because I've been reasonably consistent over the years in my exercise regime. I do say reasonably because I haven't done it as frequently as I should, but this year I've started again, and now I am doing at least 1 and probably 2 treadmill sessions a day as I try to get back fitness. But it's vitally important that we don't push too hard. In McArdle's, the idea that there is no pain, no gain is simply wrong. And if you do have pain, then it's important that you stop or slow down. As I say, this was my original prescription, and you can see the gradual increases. And the reason for that is shown on this page here. We've got sources of energy on the left here and time. When we exercise, we initially use an immediate source of energy called ATP and the phosphocreatine system. As those are exhausted, the normal body would use glycogen. But as we can't, we need our body to start taking its energy from the blood supply, from fatty acids. And that is why we experience a second wind. So we need to start slowly. And as you'll see here, Dr. Slonim thinks it's about 8 to 10 minutes that we start to take our energy from that separate source, and that enables us to then increase our speed. Key for Dr. Slonim was, as you can see here, a low-carb diet. Now, he would have prescribed high protein and normal fat. I think over time, I have certainly learned that that's not optimal for me. Optimal for me is the low carb, but also with only modest protein and high levels of fat that lead me to be in a state of ketosis. Now, this is something that I found out for myself in 2014 when I fasted and found that I was able to exercise at a much greater level from a standing start when in ketosis. Also key for Dr. Slonim was the third thing there, compliance. So the nutrition, daily aerobic exercise, and compliance were his 3 important factors. For me, I think it's all about those 3, with diet being low carb as possible, only modest amounts of protein, and then higher levels of fat. I tend to exercise on an empty stomach, probably fasted from the night before. And what I find is that that's the best state for me, the least pain, my ability is greater to exercise. I also find that if I do 1 50-minute session at a modest pace, I can then do the second 50-minute session at a much higher pace because I'm already in ketosis My body is drawing on that separate energy source. It's not looking for glycogen. And in McArdle's, that's the key. If the body is drawing on a separate energy source that we are as good as anyone else at using, then we can exercise, we can do safely, and we can improve. So now I want to talk about setup. I find it very helpful to have some distraction when I'm on the treadmill. This is the one I use. It's a Reebok machine. And as you can see, I have the television over here. So if there's any sport, I can watch at the same time. If there's no sport, then I tend to listen to a 50-minute workout compilation that I've put together, and that helps me get through the session. I like to exercise on the treadmill because it gives me consistency. So for me, I find it useful to record my performance in every 50-minute treadmill session that I do. And you'll see this is the spreadsheet that I use, my weight, which tends to be out of control at the beginning of the year, but hopefully gets better. And then I record my average speed and the distance that I've traveled. At some stages, I will also take the level of ketones in my blood, and that tends to help just assess. I now know I can taste the ketones. So earlier this year, for instance, if I go to my best session so far this year, on the 17th of January, you'll see I'd done a session before, and I could taste at that time the level of ketones. And so I decided straight away after this first session, when I did 5 kilometers, to do another 50-minute session. And the improvement there was dramatic. And that is my best session so far this year. I'm looking to try and replicate that tomorrow, when I'm planning to do 3 sessions during the day, all of them before I eat. And that's key, because I will then get deeper and deeper into ketosis. But you can see I've been doing this recording way back. It's 2014, then my 53rd year, 54th year, but often because I'm starting again. My best performance was the 21st of September several years ago, when I managed 7.5 kilometers in my daily session. Now that was in a deep state of ketosis. So second session of the day. I'm pushing myself today, and 4.8 kilometers in 38.5 minutes. I've achieved that through interspersing jogging with fast walks, and I quickly started walking at 7k an hour, but that's because I've done a session earlier. I haven't eaten, I've had 3 or 4 coffees, and now I'm going to try and push for the last 12 minutes and see if I can break 6 kilometers. So this is a jog at 8.5 kilometers and 39 minutes in, and it looks like I'm heading for a personal best this year in terms of 5k. Let's up it a bit, up to 9.5. I want to get 500k under 40. Now I'm going to push quite hard, and I didn't make it. So now we'll slow down, get our breath back, but carry on at 7. So I've slowed down to walk again, and then tried to intersperse with 1-minute jogs. Key thing here is I'm not feeling any pain. Sure, I'm out of breath, but there's no pain, and that's very, very important. I'm going to get to 6k in under 48 minutes, which I'm very pleased with. And now it's just a question of how much I can go beyond that to for the end of the session. Okay, so we've got 30 seconds to go now. and I'm just going to try and run up 10 for the last 30. If I feel any pain, I'm going to slow down, but so far I'm not. Okay, let's go a bit more. So that was my 17th session in February, my 62nd of the year. I just cooled off a bit, and now I'm going to check ketone levels, and no surprise to see it pretty reasonably high. And I'm not following the strictest of keto diets at the moment, but I am very low carb, and if I'm eating any carbs at all, it's in the evening. And then obviously that session I did push myself quite hard, but the key, I'm not pushing myself until I feel any pain. So I'm pushing myself out breathless wise, I suppose, but not such that my muscles are in any pain. So there we go, that's it. I think the keys with McArdle's for exercise are no pain, but there still will be gain if you exercise consistently. For me, that needs to be in a low carb setting. Best for me, and I'm emphasizing this is best for me, is without food in the mornings, because that's the quickest way I'm going to get into ketosis, and my body is behaving as well as it can. Not in ketosis, then there's no way I could achieve what I've achieved today, and that is a personal best for me year to date. It's only 80 meters below my best last year, so I'm looking forward to beating that in the not too distant future, but I'll push when I feel ready to push and not before. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed all that. Thank you.